Welcome to Mindset Growth Podcast. This is Gary, your host, and I have Heather, the co-host, here with me today. I am excited for this guest, Annette McNamara. I do not know this person, so this is a friend of yours, Heather, is that right?
She is. She is actually the very first person that I met on move-in day at UNI, University of Northern Iowa, shout out. Move-in day, she just had this megawatt smile, huge personality. I mean, there is no way not to she's just magnetic. And so I am just extremely excited to talk to her today.
So she was one of your college friends?
Yes. Yep.
All right.
Yep. She, for the first year, and Annette has very big dreams and she knows who she wants to be, and Iowa wasn't the place for her. So she picked up and moved to California.
And that's where she's been since?
Nope. Since she's been California to, I think, Osage Beach, Ozarks area.
Yep.
And currently she is living in Nashville.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. She follows her dreams. That's what I love about her.
Awesome. So I've heard you talk about her, and obviously has been a very impactful person to you. Was probably somebody who obviously welcomed you, it sounds like, or made you feel welcome when you got to college. So
it was mutual, I think.
Yeah.
We really clicked, and we got each other, I think.
Right. I'm excited. I'm just, she's got a cause that she's passionate about and that she's working on currently. Is that correct?
Yeah, that she founded completely herself. And Beautiful Strength is the name of her project. And we'll talk to her more about that when we get her on the line.
All right.
Today, we've got Annette McNamara with us, and I am so excited to have her. She is the founder of Beautiful Strength. She is a photographer. She's passionate about her photography. Annette and I met in college, first day, move-in day at University of Northern Iowa. Welcome to the show, Annette.
Hello. This is so exciting. It's also really awesome to hear your voice, too.
I know. We communicate so much through text or comments on each other's Facebook, but those little things of picking up the phone sometimes get away from us, don't they?
Right. I know. But this is super cool. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So first of all, where are you calling us from today?
I am currently in Ventura, California.
Okay.
So I've been here about a month, and then I head to San Diego in about an hour.
Okay. With that, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, if you want to go like way back when, I was born and raised in Iowa. That's how I met you. I grew up in small town Iowa, Ackley.
Yep.
And then I went to University of Northern Iowa for one semester, and I met Heather. So
yep.
I was originally a theater major with a biology minor because I love the arts, but I also like science and all that stuff too, which is really weird. Doesn't exactly go together. And then I hopped a Greyhound bus and moved to California, sight unseen. And I spent 9 years out here, got a degree in communications, and just had a good time. I really liked it. I worked retail. I was a retail manager for about 13 years. Moved to Missouri in 2008. Ended up actually, I lost a job, and that kind of pushed me into what am I going to do next? And I have always loved photography. It's always been a passion of mine. And I started pursuing photography. And then in 2014, I moved to Nashville to be I really wanted to work with stars, like everybody does when they move to Nashville.
That's one thing about you. You really follow your dreams. And I've always loved that.
I think it's an impulsive habit, but sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. But I'm definitely not afraid of jumping in. So yeah, that's how I got to Nashville, and I've done photography there since 2014. Worked with some incredible celebrity photographers and wedding photographers, and you name it, I've probably shot it at some point. And then started this nonprofit in 2018. So it's been kind of a whirlwind adult life that I still feel like I'm in my 20s, but my body says otherwise.
Right. I always love watching, kind of following you on Facebook. You always just look like every shoot that you're doing, you are having such a great time and making sure that the people that you are with are enjoying themselves and capturing them in their best light.
I try to. I think a lot of people take life really, really, really seriously. And I think there's something, I don't know what it is, but I mean, I'm 42. I just turned 42.
Yes,
and
you
I
did
still,
the other day. Happy birthday.
I know. Woo! It's so weird to say you're in your 40s. Like, I don't know what that, I guess when I thought when my parents and my aunts and uncles and stuff turned 40, they seemed so old, which they weren't, but it just seemed like it, And then now I'm 40 and I was like, whoa, okay. I'm like halfway through life. This is weird. Yeah, I think I always have like I'm a responsible adult, but I have a childlike spirit. And I think having a good time, like we're only here for a certain amount of time, like we might as well make the best of it. And if I have to be the person that is happy, I'll be that person. And I'm not saying I definitely struggle with anxiety and depression and all those things too. But for the most part, I'm just grateful every day to be alive. And my God, when you get to do something that's super fun and you get to help other people feel confident and feel good about themselves, then, I mean, what a job,
Right. Bringing happiness to yourself by showing others happiness. It's just kind of the circle of life almost.
Yeah, I think so. And when you smile at other people and they smile back, I mean, it's just a reciprocal. That's a hard word to say. Reciprocal. That is a not before 8 a.m. word or whatever. Reciprocal.
Speaking of it being 8 a.m. where you're at, what is your morning routine?
I would love to say that I have one, but I don't. That's really funny because that's actually my 2022 New Year's resolution is to get more into a routine. But traveling, it changes all the time, and it all depends on what I have. Like, I would love to be that person that would tell you, oh, I wake up at 5:30 and I work out, and then I write my journal and I drink my tea and do yoga, but none of that is accurate. So
you just described Heather.
Oh, absolutely not. I hit snooze 3 times this morning before rolling out of bed.
Yeah, I was like, like today I was like, oh, cool, 8 a.m. I'm like, right on. Like if I schedule something, I nail it. Like I will be there. I will show up. I will be on time, if not early, like all those things. But otherwise, a lot of it, and it depends. Like I've been in one spot for a month, which hasn't been very normal in the last like 2 years. So a lot of times it's, getting up and figuring out, do I need to move right now? Do I have to be at a location? Am I going to a shoot? Am I doing paperwork stuff today? But I really do. So in the bus, we haven't really gotten to the bus part, but in the bus, like because I have a Murphy bed, I try to like make my bed and shut the Murphy bed. So that way it's like, I don't just go back to sleep or like hop on my phone and only stay on social media for 3 hours, posting and all that fun stuff. But yeah, I try to have a little bit of a routine, but I'm not very good at it.
Sorry, no, you're good. They say that making your bed first thing in the morning is one of the most important things that you can do to just start your day off right.
Awesome.
There you go.
That.
So you've got it.
Right on.
All right. I've got some rapid fire questions for you. Ones that you didn't get to see.
Okay. Ooh, fun.
All right. Ready? What is the most useless talent you have?
I can roll my tongue like it, not like a hot dog, like a wave. And I can touch my tongue to my nose. Did you want something better?
No, I'm sorry. I'm laughing. That's great. That's very good.
It does nothing for me. I make no money doing that.
That's why it's useless. What is your greatest achievement so far?
Oh gosh, it has to be this project. Like, I mean, the last year, 2021 was probably the most epic year of my entire life. And it was all because of the nonprofit. And just this adventure in the bus. And like, it's so I'm over halfway done, but I want to see. Yeah, that's definitely the biggest accomplishment.
It's been quite the journey for you and fun to watch.
Oh gosh, yeah.
All right. What is your favorite way to de-stress or unwind?
I listen to music a lot. That's probably my one thing. And so this kind of, I have started a morning routine thing, or like anytime I get super stressed, I turn on like meditation music and just listen to that, which I'm not a very good meditator. Like I can't sit and meditate, but I actually like to clean when I'm stressed. Okay. I think it's just that you can see something is done and it's in order and the chaos goes away. So yeah, I listen to music and clean.
Well, declutter your space, declutter your mind, right?
Yeah. So if anybody needs, a good cleaning job, just stress me out and I'll show up.
And that's your meditation?
I think it's just putting things in order. Like I can't sit still and clear my mind, but I can mop. That sounds so weird to say out loud, but it is. It's really relaxing to me.
It's awesome because I deal with that with clients all the time. Where's your space to meditate and how do you do it? And everybody's like, well, how do you do it? I'm like, well, you got to sit down and cross your legs a certain way and hold your hands. And I'm joking,
it's
really,
not for everybody.
It's different for everyone. You just got to find your space where you can feel energized and clear your thoughts. And
absolutely. And I'll turn my phone. Obviously it can't go into airplane mode because I'm using it to download the music, but I turn my phone ringer off a lot. There's something stressful about that sound, like when the ding goes off or the phone rings or whatever. Like obviously if I know that I'm going to do something, I'll turn it on, but it gives me anxiety because I feel like the need that I have to respond. So yeah, when I definitely try it. Like some days I'll put out a yoga mat and I have like all intentions of doing some yoga and doing stuff. But yeah, I feel like if your meditation is really just resetting your mind and calming yourself, and then it doesn't have to be sitting. But
exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So
there you go. You can use that. Be like, next time you should clean.
That's right. Because sitting doesn't work for everybody.
I needed to know that when the kids were still living with me.
Right? That's funny.
All right. I've got one more rapid fire for you. And pretty sure I know the answer to this one. We're going to it'll lead us into another question here. But what superhero do you identify with?
What? Oh, I would definitely say Batman. Just kidding. No, I'm not at all. Wonder Woman. I have loved Wonder Woman since I was a kid. Probably not more so as an adult than as a kid, but I always liked the female superheroes. Like, I mean, even like She-Ra, and she's not really I don't know what you call her. She's a cartoon, but
yeah,
Wonder Woman.
She was in the realm.
She was awesome. And Jem.
Yep.
And Barbie and the Rockers.
Absolutely.
For the most part, I even have, I have a Wonder Woman tattoo. I have Wonder Woman's driving my bus. I just like the concept of her. Like, if you're truthful and you tell the truth and you fight for what's right, then that can save the world. And I think everybody has the capability of doing that. You don't even have to be a superhero to do it.
Right. So, and her invisible jet was pretty cool too.
Right. I would love to have an invisible jet right now. Or like, so this is really funny. So sometimes when I'm driving the bus, like the bus has a flat nose on the front. So I kind of like sit out in front of it. And I always am like, it feels like I'm like, if I was invisible, I'm driving a 40-foot pink sparkly thing. But sometimes I feel like her driving a invisible. Oh, shoot. That's funny. Sometimes I say really random stuff, but there you go.
That's okay. We love it. So I cannot remember where I saw this. I don't know if it was on your photography website, AnnetteMcNamara.com, but you had a project when the tornado went through Nashville, and you went around to people that were cleaning up and heard their stories and put the cape on them and took pictures. And those are pretty powerful pictures. Can you tell us about that a little bit?
Yeah, they were pretty awesome. So that started, a friend of mine, I shot a campaign that I started for breast cancer in February of 2020. And at that shoot, a friend of mine gave me a Wonder Woman cape. She was like, it's an early birthday present. Here, you can have this cape. And at that shoot, I was like, oh my gosh, I want to do a series of like Wonder Women. So the first time I ever did that was in February. I put it on all these breast cancer survivors and then all the volunteers. And it's amazing what happens when you put this cape onto women. Like their mood changes. They go into these like crazy stances. It's just pretty awesome. And so when the tornado hit, so Nashville had a massive tornado in March. It was like March 2nd in the middle of the night in 2020. And I was in the hallway with a friend of mine who lost her business that night. We were down at the ruins of it at like 1:30 in the morning. And the next day I commandeered a shopping cart from the local grocery store and filled it with like a whole bunch of Gatorades and stuff like that, and just went down to watch people, start cleanup. And I stood women in in the rubble of, the tornado, and they still like were super powerful. Like people had this, it was devastating, but it was also like women rising up out of the ashes to really stand together and do stuff. But it was a pretty incredible thing. And from that, so that got included into the Wonder Woman series. And then now, so my birthday is on March 8th, which is International Women's Day, which I think is no coincidence whatsoever.
None. It's perfectly fitting.
Yeah. So the month of March, I released a series of women that are just with that cape. So it's regular, everyday women, but they get to put on this cape, and then they get to say, how strong they are or how they see themselves as Wonder Woman. So that's actually going on right now on the, it's mostly released through the Instagram page. So it's beautifulstrength_org. Like all through the month of March, all you'll see is women in Wonder Woman capes doing the same project, but just a little bit different. And then it's also on the website under special series. But yeah, it was really powerful, I think.
Awesome. Yeah, it really was. When you say it's also on the website, are you putting it on your Beautiful Strength website or the photography?
That's a great question. I don't know if it's on the photography one. It might be under humanitarian work on so I have been a photographer for a really long time. I still like doing photography. I absolutely love it. I will do it forever. And when I say photography, I mean all types. Like I absolutely love documenting stuff. I'm a portrait photographer, but I think I'm gearing more towards being a documentarian now. But the Beautiful Strength Project has kind of completely consumed me.
Right.
So like I'd say I'm doing about 80-20. So I could tell you everything that's on the beautifulstrength.org website right now. I'd have to actually go check my Annette McNamara one, because I don't know if I've added anything to it in the last year.
Okay.
But that said, I am still doing photography. I am still for hire, but I don't know if I have anything on there. Additional about that. So I will go check that as soon as we're done with this call.
That sounds like a plan. So we've mentioned Beautiful Strength. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it? Tell us where the vision came from.
Yeah. So I started it in 2018. So I have struggled with my body image my entire life. As a kid, I had an older guy, not an older guy, but he was like, 6 or 7 years older than me, called me Butterball. I was definitely a heavier kid. And that really hurt. Like that stuck with me for a really long time. It definitely even though I'm a super outgoing, friendly, funny person, I've always been uncomfortable in my own skin. And when I started photography, as well as I also got in really good shape for a while. And even when I was super fit, then it was, oh, you're starting to look like a man. You shouldn't lift. You're starting to look like the Hulk. And I was like, man, you can't satisfy anyone. So I got breast implants when I was really thin because I thought, oh, this will make me feel more feminine. It didn't. So just struggling with body image altogether for myself. But in 2018, like I wish 38-year-old Annette could have talked to 20-year-old Annette and been like, none of this matters. Like it's totally, the people who love you are going to love you regardless of what size you are and regardless of who you are. And in 2018, The Greatest Showman came out, which is an amazing movie. And there's a This Is Me song, and it was awesome. And just throughout my career as a photographer, I could tell, you could have the most quote unquote, American or beauty standards person in front of your camera, and they still don't like themselves. They don't like their eye. They think one's crooked. Can you make them look thin? Can you fix their lips? Can you use Photoshop? And then you can have like a mom who doesn't want any photos with their kids because they're not comfortable with how their body looks now because it's very different after you have kids. Whereas I'm like, no, get in there, get with your kids, like take your picture, like your kids want this.
Right.
Like nobody cares how you look. And I would take so many photos and people would pay no attention to whatever else is around them, but they would just look at themselves and criticize themselves and tear themselves apart. So I had said how I wanted to do a This Is Me photo shoot, and I wanted to do like a straight on shot. So none of this like super above, thinning everybody out, because we don't walk around the earth looking like that. And I wanted to do something where, there was no alterations. It was just how you are in the moment, straight on. And then you get to use your own handwriting to tell the world about you, because there's so much more than what you just see on the surface. So it started as a body positivity thing, very like 24 hours. Like it was like and it started as I just wanted to do a picture of myself. And then the more I told people, I kept telling people about it. And then I was working at a restaurant at the time, and one guy was like, well, I want to do it. And then another one was, I want to do it. And he was like, if I hire you to do headshots for me, we can rent out a studio for the day. Let's do it. We'll do my headshots in the morning, and then we'll use the studio the entire day. So I put a post out, and this is prior to, I didn't have a name for it yet. I put a post out and just said, I want to do a This Is Me photo shoot. Who's interested? And I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm very chatty and I talk to a lot of people. So,
it's a gift.
I know, it's a gift. It's not my useless gift, that's for sure. But I think like 85 people responded to that first one. And so at one, it dinged in my head like, wow, this is needed. And another thing was like, wow, how cool is it that I have all these friends that are willing to come forward and do this?
Right.
So the shoot, after we set the date and everything like that, it kind of dwindled down to 45 people, but still 45 people. And I was out for a walk one day and I was just like, man, what am I going to call this? Because like, it's a This Is Me, but I feel like this could be something that could be a lifelong thing that I could do. Well, when I was in really good shape and that guy told me, oh, I need to stop working out because I was starting to look like man, I was like, whatever, it's beautiful strength. And I got it tattooed on my arms, my boxing arms that I was doing at the time. And so it just kind of clicked in my head. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to call it that because, life can be really messy, but it can also be really beautiful. And it takes strength to get up every day and pursue it. And it fits, it's not so feminine that this project can only include women. And it's not so manly that it can only be geared towards man. And it really can be inclusive. So yeah, that very first shoot had 45 people and it was all walks of life. Like the shortest girl, I think, was 4'1". The tallest guy was like 6'8". We had a Christian pastor, a transgender man, we had a cross-dresser, we had the LGBTQ community represented, we had cerebral palsy, and spina bifida. We had a paraplegic Olympian, Black, white, Asian, Hispanic. Gosh, it was such a crazy day. And I thought people would just come in, take their picture, tell their story a little bit and leave. And instead, everybody was sitting in this studio cheering each other on. We had music playing, people were clapping, and like, it was the most beautiful day I've ever experienced, I think, in my life. And on that day, I was like, I think this is what I want to do. And I think it would be awesome to make this mobile. Like, there's a video, I need to find it because there's a video where I say it would be really cool to build like a tiny home for this and take it mobile. And from that day, like somebody from that shoot had me come to her gym, and then somebody from that shoot had me come to her tanning salon or thing. And so it became almost like the Tupperware party of 2018. So that's kind of like the origin of what I'm doing. And then it just kind of kept going. And through 2019, I just had people come to my apartment, or I would go to wherever they were. And I applied for the 501c3 nonprofit status in 2019, got it approved in 2020. And yeah, that's how the project started.
That is such an amazing story. Honestly, I had chills listening to it. I can't imagine how powerful that was for you to have that many people show up and just show so much appreciation and love that had to have been in that room. How overwhelmed were you?
I don't think it really hit me in the moment. It hit me after that. I was just like, this was incredible. And like, I had a videographer there. So we had a separate room where people would go in and video and tell their story, which I want to start doing more of that too. And he would like come out, he'd be crying and taking breaks and everything. And I'm like, are you okay? Are you okay? He's like, this is a lot to take in, but it's so awesome because so the mission statement of the nonprofit, which I'm super proud of because it did take me, like, you talk about building something. Like, I was in an apartment by myself and I would put these like gigantic Post-it notes up on my wall, and I'd be like, what's the purpose? What am I doing? Who am I serving? Why, like all these things. And like, why is this important? Or like, who's even going to give two craps about like what I'm doing, And when I came up with a mission statement and I told it to my lawyer at the time, he was like, that's pretty solid. So the mission statement is celebrating the resilience of the human spirit through the power of conversation and photography. And I know that's a mouthful, but photography had to be the last word because I always want the focus of what I'm doing to be photography related. But like, everybody has a story. So like, our little tagline is tell your story. Right. But everybody has a story, and everybody's story of resilience. Like, if you're waking up every day and choosing life and you're going forward being you're resilient. You're a resilient person. And conversation is where we get to know other people beyond what we can just see on the surface. You can walk by anybody and have some sort of stereotype or judgment in your head, but until you have a conversation with somebody, you don't really know them. You only know what you think you know about them. And you can have the most popular girl in school who's beautiful and rich and all the things that you would think are, what is perfect. And that person hurts too. And that person might have something that they don't like about their body, or they might be, an abused person. They might be sexually abused or have trauma too. Like, you never know what somebody's going through. So and then the vision. So with nonprofits, you have to have a vision statement too, which is basically like, in a utopian world, if your nonprofit was to succeed, what would that look like? And so the vision is that everybody has a chance to be seen, heard, valued, and loved. And when I say everybody, I mean everybody.
Right.
Because even the worst person that you could think of in your entire life, of like that, like the worst, still there's a reason how they got to there. And until you can tap into that conversation, you can't, I don't want to say fix them, but you can't help them become a better person. So yeah, this whole project is just, it's been is enlightening to me as it is to everybody else, because every day I meet people that are new, and people are way more alike than what we tend to think. Like everybody can lose a
It's a
parent.
great
Everybody
point.
can, yeah. And like the whole point of life, or like what everybody is thriving for or striving for, is to be happy. And that's it. Like bottom line, happiness. And that looks different on a lot of people, but it doesn't matter if you're in a slum of India or a penthouse in New York. You can still, one, you're going to die at some point. You can still lose a parent. You could still get breast cancer. You could still whatever, but you can also still smile. And it connects, like, I think this project is connecting all of those things together. I get really excited about what I'm doing.
I can tell you do, and it's so much fun to listen to you. And I have a question for you, because Heather and I coach people, and we talk about business coaching as a primary focus, but really I talk about we're also mental strength coaches, because really, even for people to find success in their businesses, they first have to be mentally strong and find peace with themselves. But one thing that we end up helping folks with a lot is decision making. And some folks just lock up on that. One thing I'm hearing come from you is that you seem to have a process, or it's not difficult for you once you kind of form a vision in your mind to just charge forward and make decisions and act upon what it is that you want to accomplish. To me, that's very unique, because that is a gift that a lot of folks don't naturally have. Can you talk a little bit about that? Is that something you've developed, or is it just something since a child you've kind of naturally had that ability to have that beyond even a free spirit? Because some of the things you're doing take a lot of work. I mean, it doesn't just happen.
Right. Okay. So this is really funny, because as a creative person who also has some ADD in there, I have about 1 million different project ideas that never see the light of day. Because and I had a mentor once that told me, he's like, that's one of the things that a lot of artists or creative people struggle with, is that you have so many ideas and you can't pick one, but you need to pick one, because if you pick none, then none of them get done. So what happens in my life is, I think, one, I work really well off of people telling me I can't do something, which probably is not healthy. But I think a lot of the things that have been where I have been successful in my life is, one, I take the leap because something interests me. And then I don't want to say obsessed with it, but very kind of like focused. But my path is not like straight focused. Like, it's definitely like focus squirrel, something sparkly squirrel, focus. Like this project, I think, it took me 38 years to get to it. So though I've been focused on a lot of other things, I think one of the things is that it took everything else that I did to be able to do what I'm doing now. But once I was like, this is everything that I've wanted. Like, it's not as clear cut and awesome as looks like it is on social media. Like, this is taking me 3 years, trial and error. My photography business basically tanked. But I'm not giving up on it. I think that's the biggest thing, is like, I'm one of those people that will try something. And if it doesn't work, I don't feel like a total failure, because I at least tried. Like sometimes if you never know if it's going to work or not work unless you try it. And I think a lot of times people don't want to put it out there like, hey, this is the challenge that I want to do, whether it's weight loss, whether it's business, whether it's, learning how to drive or whatever. Like, unless you take a step forward and try it, you're already a failure. I guess that sounds really negative. But
there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah, I definitely don't have the focus. Like, there's days where I wake up and I'm like, you know what? If this project was in the hands of the perfect marketer and the perfect person who just has money and the perfect this project would be global and it'd be so big and everybody would know about it. And if I think about it that way, it's overwhelming. And I'm like, well, I might as well just quit. Like, I'm not doing what could be done. but then I'm like, what the hell? Like, I'm doing a lot, I'm like, I'm doing a lot, and other people are coming along and enjoying this too. It doesn't have to be a multi-million-dollar business or a, big, humongous thing. Like, when you think about businesses, like, so Make-A-Wish Foundation, for example, started with one guy. He just wanted, and then it progressed and it progressed and it progressed. Or you think of like, Apple computers. I worked for them for a while too. Started in somebody's garage of just like three friends getting together and doing something that they were passionate about. Like, obviously, if tomorrow you try to start a job that you have no passion for whatsoever, you just want to make money, it's going to be a lot harder than doing something that you enjoy on a daily basis and you chase after because it's something that makes you feel on fire. Like, if you're just a dud every day, then no, going to work would stink. But I don't know if that answered that question at all. But yeah, I actually, so being from Iowa, you guys will enjoy this too. And I'm speaking at a conference in Iowa in April, so I will be in Iowa for a little while.
Where's that going to be at?
It's the Women Who Lead conference. It's April 26th and 27th in Cedar Rapids. And then I'm doing another thing.
I've heard about those conferences. I have a good reason to go now.
Yeah, I've heard it's great. And I think it's going to be even more awesome this year. But the title of my my speaking workshop, which this is the very first one that I've ever done, and I'm super excited about it. But it's If You Build It, They Will Come. And
yes,
like, Field of Dreams.
Field of Dreams, absolutely.
Heck yeah. Even though, you know what, I always thought that line was, if you build it, they will come. Until I went to the Field of Dreams this last summer, and it was, if you build it, he will come. I was like mind blown. But honestly, like, if you have a passion about something, if you build it, people will see, they will come to it because they see how much you are passionate about it and how much you care about it. And then when you care about other people, not about the money, but you care about their well-being and their happiness and, what makes people feel good, people will come to whatever you're selling. You could sell a toothpick to somebody, and if you are passionate about it, they'll follow you.
Personalities can be magnetic for sure. I'm going to go back a little bit on what you talked about, though, that motivates you. Mm-hmm. And I guess a lot of folks are motivated by different things, and I don't think it's a bad thing at all to be motivated, mm-hmm. because I identify with so much of what you're saying on motivations. If you just drop a negative comment that I can't accomplish it, just go ahead and stand back, because it's going to happen. Right. But the fact really is, it's how we react to those things. Are we going to let those things control us in a negative way or a positive way? And I'm sure when we're young, we can all talk about or even look back and see how there were negative experiences that we just let them take us down. But as you said, your 42-year-old self responds very differently. So don't ever feel bad about that. Build on it. It's the positivity and the growth that comes out of the pain that's awesome.
Absolutely.
All right. So you're just wrapping up another, I call them cross-country tours, in Atticus. And I know Atticus has been a labor of love and kind of has his own following at this point. Can you tell us about the renovation?
Oh my gosh, it's literally the hardest thing I've ever done in life. And I know, like, people have kids and family and all that stuff, and I don't have those things. So Atticus is kind of my baby. But it's funny because I always thought it when I had kids, I would name a son Atticus, and then didn't have kids. So I've had a guitar, and now I have a bus. But the name comes from the book To Kill a Mockingbird. I read that when I was a freshman in high school, and it just stuck with me that I just loved this person who fought for what was right. And there's a line in the book that says, you never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb into his skin and walk around in it. So the reason why the bus is named Atticus is after that line, because the only way that we can start to build relationships with other people and to know what it's like to be other people is through conversation. And when I started building this bus, I built it in a way that I knew I wanted to live in it. I live in it full time. So I had to make it livable for me, but I wanted to make it into a space that felt comfortable, almost like a therapy session. And I'm not a therapist. I should be. I think I should get like an honorary Harvard thing after this or whatever. I'm working on that. If you have any connection.
You put it out there into the world and
yeah, right?
It'll come, right?
Or USC or whatever, but it's pink and it's sparkly and it's fun on the outside and it gets a lot of attention. And the colors of the nonprofit are black and white because nothing is really black and white. Plus they're awesome colors that I wear often. But nothing is black and white. It's in the gray is where you learn and where you grow and where you become a better person. But I was attracted to this super pink color. And when I got close to it at Home Depot, it was called Glitterati. And I was like, I like glitter too.
That's it.
So, yep, that's the color of my bus. So the outside was very easy. It was one of the first things that was done. But the inside, I actually started designing the inside of the bus before I even had it. And I've always been a person who kind of like, I'm a dreamer, I'm an imaginer, is it an imaginer a word? An imagination
It is
person?
today.
Okay. But I drew out what I wanted in a bus before I even had the bus. And it helped with a couple other people that had buses and did renovations and stuff too, just to kind of like have this vision of what this would look like. Now, when I bought the bus in 2019, there was a few things that I really wanted. I wanted low miles. I wanted it to start right up. And I wanted it to have a wheelchair lift because I didn't want to have to tell anybody no from getting into the bus and being part of the project. So when I found this bus, I had like $500 in my account. And I was like, there's no way I can buy that. And dreaming at night and you click on buttons and whatever. Well, this guy calls me and he's like, hey, do you want this bus? And I'm like, oh, I don't even know which one you're talking about. And he was like, well, I'm in Cookeville, which was only 45 minutes from Nashville. So I was like, you know what? Doesn't hurt. I'm just going to go on a little road trip. So I went and looked at this bus. It only had 119,000 miles on it, which on a school bus and on a diesel, that's super low. It started right up. It had a wheelchair lift. It was the taller bus. Like it was like in my mind, I was just like, it's so beautiful. And it was $10,000. And I was like, definitely out of my budget. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. So for 3 days, I was just like, oh, man, how am I going to make this work? And the responsible version of me was like, I'll just put it on a credit card and I'll pay it off. And anyway, I called the guy and I was like, is that bus still there? And he was like, yes. And I'm like, but he's like, somebody is coming to look at it tomorrow. And I'm like, I'm buying it. Like, hold it. I'll be right there. And I went to go talk to him. And in talking to him, he loved what I was doing. So he brought it from $10,000 to $6,500.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Still $6,000 or more than I had. And I talked to him. I was like, hey, is there any way that you could hold this? Like, I'll give you a down payment of like $2,000, but I'll come back and I'll pay cash for it. If you can just hold it for me, because I know I'm shooting 2 weddings and I'm doing 2 senior sessions and that'll pay for it. And so I left and he held the bus and he was holding it for 2 months, but I came back a month later and I paid $7,500 cash for the bus. And then I had no idea where I was taking it to demo it. And a friend of mine was like, hey, you can bring it to my shop and I'll help you. I'm like, all right, cool. Then I had a power steering issue, which was a $3,000 fix of money that I didn't have. In that time, a job that I used to work for that I was fired from, it's the one and only job I've ever been fired from, sent me an early retirement check, and it was $30,000. Well, after tax, it was like 19. So that started the build of the bus. And so then quarantine happened. So COVID sucked for a lot of people, and it was not great for my business either. But it shut everything down to where my attention span, that usually is very squirrely and glittery, had nothing to do. Like, I had to focus. So I had this like 3 months of time where I moved it down to friends of mine's farm in Georgia. And they kind of helped guide me. Like, I did a lot of the work, but they helped guide me in how to do it. And I had 15-hour days where I spent in here it's the one and only time, like, and I always want to be truthful about this stuff, because sometimes people are like, well, how did you build a business, or how did you do this? And I'm like, friggin' divine intervention for sure. But like, I qualified for unemployment. It was very humbling for me to take unemployment, because I have never, ever in my life ever had to do that. But with zero career, in 2020, I had to take it. So with that helped me pay all my bills. And then with what I had left over, was put into the bus. And then I also got the PPP loan, as well as the stimulus checks. But every day that I would be working on this, I was like, if I'm going to use this money, it is going to be a community thing. Like, it's going to be something that people can come to, and it's just as much theirs as it is mine. Well, like 60-40, but
Right.
yeah, but it was the hardest thing. It was a bunch of skill sets that I did not have. I had no idea. Like, I've always been, a good student. I love like watching how it's made. I love science. I love creativity. I love all those things. So my biggest thing was focus. And when I didn't have anything else to do, it was very easy to focus on this. And then I had to get to a part where I really had to have help. So everything you see in the bus that's cool, like the cabinets and everything, I designed it all, but I didn't build it all, which is kind of a bummer, because I wish I could say that I did everything in here, but I didn't. But I think over 50 people helped me with this. And that's the same thing. Like, when you do something you're passionate about and people understand why you're doing it and what you're doing it, like, I have had so much help, or like weird stuff that has happened. Like, I was in Idaho and blew a hose and just happened to connect with a guy that helped me fix it. Or I was like needing air in my tire, and some dude at a laundromat rolls up in a tire, I don't know, he worked at a tire store, but he had an air compressor. And I was like, what the heck? Like, things like that happen all the time. Like, it is incredible. Like, I don't know if I'll ever write a book, or I don't know. I felt like Netflix should have followed me around, but I don't think it would be I don't think people would be as real if I had a camera crew. But anyway,
People probably wouldn't believe the luck that you.
Like, you're like, I just wanted to know what it was like to build it. And I'm like, 20 minutes later, this is what it was like.
That's all right. I know your dad has helped you along the way with it too. I love seeing pictures of you making it back to Iowa, and dad's helping you weld something or teaching you how to do it.
Yeah, it was funny, because when the pandemic first hit and I had this bus, I really wanted my dad to help build it. I was like, this would have been the most epic thing to do with my dad. But he was closing his business of 37 years in Iowa. So he was booked. He was, liquid. I mean, he had this, John Deere dealership. And so I was super bummed at first, and angry and mad and all those things. And then it kind of, once again, as an adult, you go through all these feelings, but you can process them. Whereas in my 20s, I would have been very angry. As an adult, I was like, okay, cool. He's busy too. So when I came up there in April, right before I left, so my original trip, I was supposed to leave Nashville in April, and I was supposed to go across the Southwest and conquer that whole section. And then I wouldn't have been into Iowa until like midsummer. Well, my best friend's mom was dying. And so I went up to Iowa first. And I had this like healing thing with her and her parents, and then me and my dad. And then my dad and I had a blast finishing out like a whole bunch of projects. And I was like, I told you this would have been awesome. And he's like, it's probably better that you were with somebody who knew what they were doing, because he can build anything, but it was a whole foreign like idea to him. But yeah, it was really fun. Like, I used to be my dad's tomboy, and I'd have to go to the shop with him, and I hated it as a kid. Like, I was like, this stinks. Like, I'm the person who has to go to the shop while everybody else gets to stay at home, though I wouldn't have enjoyed that. So now as an adult, I think it's fun, because I'm the only daughter who really, really likes to do stuff like that with him. And, he even told me, he's like,
and no boys, right?
No boys. Yeah, he's got a bunch of grandsons now, but no boys. But my dad said one of the coolest things to me, because, I think people thought I was crazy at first when I built this. They're like, you're going to live in a bus? What? And then they come see it, and they're like, oh, you're living in a bus that's beautiful, and you're doing this really cool thing. But he was like, out of all my daughters, I couldn't see any of them doing it, but I have total faith that you're able to do this.
That's amazing.
My mom will send me. Yeah.
What words of encouragement from Dad? That means so much.
It's cool. Like your parents, like as much as you shouldn't care whether or not anybody, you don't have to answer
Approval,
to anybody or prove yourself to anybody, but it still feels good. So yeah.
Absolutely. So with Beautiful Strength being a nonprofit, how do we help you out? How do we keep these tours going?
Yeah. So the bus was built by my photography business, but the way that the whole project is working is all based on donations. So every bit of gas that has been put into this bus, which is over $25,000, has been donated. So I've done, I left April 9th of 2021, and I'm currently on the 30th state. Over 1,000 portraits have been taken in here. And my goal is to finish the U.S. by the end of 2022, which means I still have a lot to go, and a far distance. Like if it wasn't for weather, I would have done this all in 1 year. But the biggest way that people can help is to help support pay for gas. And I know like sometimes people are like, well, what does my money go to? Like exactly, like are you just out having like the best time and on vacation and doing that stuff? And I'm like, absolutely, I do those things too. But everywhere I go, there's people, and every person can participate in this project. So I've been from gas stations to Walmart parking lots to Cracker Barrels to events that I put on. Like I just went to farmers markets, and I'll be parked at a park and people will come up to me and ask what this project is and participate in it. So there's everything from homeless people to multi-million-dollar people that have participated in this project. And so the biggest way to help, the biggest cost is the bus itself. So even though I personally own the bus, the nonprofit pays for anything like parking, maintenance, and gas. And gas is the biggest expense, especially being in California right now.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Yeah. I paid $6.20 per gallon for gas yesterday, which was horrible. Yeah. So, but there's worse things that could be happening. So I just try to think of it
right.
as,
yes.
Yeah. And it keeps happening. Like if I think about the negative, that's all that I can concentrate on. That's not very fun. So I think about the positive and what can be. So the easiest ways for people to donate, it's on the website, beautifulstrength.org/donate. Also, everybody who listens to this, please go to the website. Like it's really cool. You get to go through thousands upon thousands of photos. I'm trying to stop and concentrate for enough time to like get to where you can actually search photos. Like if you were a breast cancer survivor or a mom or something, like that'll be on there at some point. But right now you can just sift through all the beautiful people that have participated and read about their stories and read what they wrote about themselves. But yeah, beautifulstrength.org/donate. There's also merchandise on the website that you can buy, or if you see my bus at an event, I usually have t-shirts and stuff on board. There's also PayPal. There's also Venmo and Cash App. And then in-kind donations are always great too. Like, I didn't know what that was until I started a nonprofit, but in-kind donations, like I'm about to get an $8,000 solar system from Go Power, which is a company based out of Canada. They're sending that to me.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, it is going to be like a game changer of what I'm doing. Like I won't have to be plugged in. But things like, people, as I'm traveling, people have just bought dinner or bought, here, we'll pay for your parking spot at a campground. So there's been like, it's weird. It's weird for me to ask for help or to ask for money, but honestly, I can't continue doing this unless that is a thing. So fundraising wise, in the past 3 years, we probably fundraised like $30,000 or $40,000 as a total. And that has been what has kept us going. And when I say us, it's me driving it. It's me being in the bus and all those things. But it really is a community project, because this started as one picture of me that would have been a really cool Instagram post. It would have been a cool Facebook, whatever. And people would have commented on it and it would have been gone. And the reason why this project keeps going is that it's not about me. It's about everybody else. And it's about connecting everybody else together. And I think I hope it keeps going, because I need to get it to where it's sustainable, because obviously I'm not going to live forever. And I think what this project is doing is valid to live forever, because there's always going to be people. And I mean, photography has always been, I shouldn't say always, it's been around for a really long time. So
absolutely. And you need to make it to those northern states yet.
Yeah, my goal is, so I have two different options. I have either I'll come to Iowa in April and then have to reevaluate everything to see what gas prices and everything else are at the time. But I need to do the Northeast, as well as Kentucky. I missed Kentucky and I missed North Dakota. So I have to do those. And then I got invited back to Sandpoint, Idaho in July. So if I do that, it'll be the Northeast will be in May and June. And then I'll flip back around, come through Iowa again, probably, and then go up to Seattle and then up to Alaska. Now, the other option is I have a couple friends that are trying to go to Alaska in June, and it would probably be safer for me to go with them. But I know I have the budget to do the Northeast. I don't have the budget as of right now to do Alaska yet, but I also didn't have the budget to do any of this project. So
that's true. Alaska would be one hell of a trip up there.
Well, I have to do it. It was my grandpa's favorite place. He used to deliver Winnebagos from Iowa to Alaska, and he did it over 100 times. And it's terrifying. Like, the only thing that scares me about this whole trip is the mountains. They're horrible. They give me anxiety. Like, it's awful. But I do it because nobody else is going to do it for me. So, and the views, and there's people, and it's awesome, but it is scary. But I'm always like, if that's how I die, that's how I die. Like, I die doing something I absolutely love. And at least I go out like in style, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, it'd be out with a bang. That's for sure.
Yeah. A big bang.
On that note,
I'm not done. I got work to do.
Yeah, no, you've, kind of talked about, staying with friends and how friends have helped you along the way. Over your journey here, you've kind of learned to live kind of a nomad lifestyle. And I know you find so many people with like minds that you're able to stay with. Can you tell us a little about that?
Absolutely. So I would say, like, okay, our friendship is a good example of, I'm very good at staying connected to people. So like where I parked in Ventura, California was in front of a house of a girl that I used to work with 20 some years ago. And so as I've traveled, I've come across old friends, made new friends. The nomadic lifestyle is, I love it. But I'm almost doing it in a different way too. Like, most people would stay as clear away from cities as possible. And I'm like, let's hit them all. But there's a lot of apps you use. Like today I'm going to a Tiny Fest in San Diego. So it's a bunch of nomads getting together, but there's also like buses and vans and houses. And it's more of like a commercial festival, but I'll get to see a bunch of people. So the nomad community is way larger than what you would think. Like, there's hundreds of people that are living in just nomadically. But yes, I don't think, even in the 25,000 miles that I've done, and I've been the top of Washington to the bottom of Key West, and then now to the bottom of the West Coast, I've never been more than 2 hours away from somebody that I know. Like, even in remote, crazy, I guess South Dakota was probably the longest that I went somewhere without knowing somebody, or Montana. But there's between social media and some people, like, I haven't met in person, but between social media and then just, I mean, even being from small town Iowa, there's Iowans everywhere. Like, yeah,
we travel.
Yeah. And so it's just been a really cool thing. Like, and I'm one of those people, like, do not invite me for coffee. I will drive 4 hours for it. Like, so, but yeah, it's been a really cool community that I didn't even know I needed. But it has definitely added to my life. That's for sure.
Rounded out you're I would say very cultural at this point.
Oh, for sure. Like I know a wide variety of people, that's for sure.
So what's next, Annette?
Well, after I complete the US, it's funny. I've had people ask me, they're like, so is this project just for this? And then you're quitting it? And I was like, heck no, that's just a milestone. Like, I really want to do, once I hit the 50, I can at least just say I went to 50. And then I'll slow down a bit. I think a lot of this trip is making connections with people too. So I can kind of see like, that's a great place to go back to during the winter. Like I will never be in Iowa for winter if I don't have to be. But after that, so if I can dream it, I guess I can achieve it. But I really want to have hubs in various different places of the U.S. So things that almost look like a fire station. So it have a bus, but a smaller version of what I have now. And so and then I'd have to get more photographers in because I'm not the only person who can do this. I know I could have a team that we could have multiple people working at the same time. And doing this. I'm the only one who I want to do the 50. And then after that, I'll bring other people in. But that would be kind of my long-term goal. I also really want to do a children's book on what I'm doing because I think if it was like the Adventures of Atticus and Atticus is the character, like if I think about it, the bus I'm driving used to be a wheelchair accessible bus in Nashville. So it used to see all these kids every day and like be super happy, you know, and then one day it got told it was old and it was retired to a junkyard. And then some girl came and looked at it, turned it pink, cut it in half and
told her it was beautiful.
Yeah, and turned it into something completely different. But my bus gets to go on all these adventures, like it gets to go to like see all these people too. So I think it would be a great thing for like kids, you know, Atticus goes to a nursing home or Atticus goes to a veterans home or Atticus goes to an accessible playground. And these are all places that my bus has actually been.
I feel like you have the book written, Annette. It's time to just
I'm
pen to paper and do it.
Yeah, if I was an illustrator, heck, that'd be done. Right now it'd be stick figures and not great. But I just think that it would be cool to bring in somebody from those communities to co-write, so it's from their perspective. So, and then it could be like a whole character, kind of like Cars.
Absolutely. The day Atticus came to visit.
Yeah, how cool would that be, right?
Yeah, that's a book I would buy. I would pass that one around for sure.
Heck yeah.
Well, I think with that, it's probably time to let you get on the road to San Francisco. Gary, do you have anything?
I don't. I've really enjoyed learning more about this project, and I feel like I know you now, and I can understand why you have friends every 2 hours across the United States.
It makes sense. It makes a lot of sense.
It's an awesome project, just bringing value to people and maybe finding that shred of hope within them that they can learn to live on. So
yeah,
I really appreciate what you've done, and it's been extremely enjoyable, and I'm sure listeners are going to find it that way too. And to the listeners, you can find this out on Spotify, iTunes, and Google Podcasts. Also go out and look up the websites that she has mentioned where you can find her project, Annette's projects. And please reach out to her, learn more about what she does in helping others find maybe just happiness in their lives, as well as confidence and many other aspects that are influenced. With that, we will sign off and hope that you enjoyed this.
Thank you for having me.